Justin and Jake. Our Coastal Bend crew is joining us here on our Sideline Sit Down on a Wednesday afternoon, preparing for week 3 of high school football. I'm used to saying high school football in the Rio Grande Valley, but these days, high school football in general, particularly in the Coastal Bend. Guys, what's up?
What up, dude?
Doing good.
We had Coach Del Percio on the show earlier today. Shout out to our guy Jake here for hooking that up. And he and I were saying that by the time we know it, we're in week 3, and then we're talking week 5, week 6, week 8, and I mean we're already in week 3 of high school football.
That's trippy, right?
Comes fast.
It goes by fast.
By the time you know it, it's Turkey Week, and we're talking playoffs, we're talking district champs and whatnot. But guys, week 3, a couple of big games on the slate, and just to dive into what we saw last week and maybe what some things that stood out. I know you guys, Jake and Justin, you guys up at the Beeville game?
Yeah, we freelance, man. We went old school.
Yeah, man, went back to our roots.
Yeah, dude. I missed it, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Oh man, I almost got put on injured reserve, but we'll get to that when we talk about the Beeville game.
Oh yeah, dude.
Oh yeah, let's start with that. That's where y'all were at last week, right?
Yeah. Yeah, you go ahead and start, Spud.
I don't know if you caught the show we had with the Sinton triplets that week, but we were kind of up in the air. I'd reached out to Coach Andrus in Jourdanton, and Coach Conway had gotten back with me that night about, hey, if y'all want to come cover Jourdanton, Cal Allen, more than merrier, we'll get you hooked up. So we were kind of like, all right, that's probably going to be what we're looking at doing. Refiro George West, a lot of people on our page, they came out and said, yeah, why don't you go to that one? But, Billy was already there. Y'all were already there with Rio Sports. And then there was another upstart crew that was trying to get their feet wet. And it just seemed like it was overcovered. And then, locally, it made more sense. It just kind of clicked on us that night. Like, hey, let's go check out Sinton and Beeville. Like, that's a good one. We'll get a chance to see what Beeville looks like, how they match up with Miller and whatnot. And then obviously pretty good relations with Coach Troutman. We wanted to see what Sinton looked like. And, it didn't disappoint. Sinton had a damn good team, and Beeville had a really good team as well. I told Jacob on the way home that night, I just did not feel like, at any point in time in that game that outcome was going to take place, because it just felt like from the very get-go, Sinton controlled that ball game from the very start. I think Beeville had like a pretty big play on their first drive, and it was like, okay. And then next thing you know, Sinton's defense clamped down, and that offense was kind of rolling. Renee Galvan had a hell of a run for the first score for Sinton. That's where Jacob almost lost a knee. It was just nice, man. It was good. We got out there, we got good footage. We had a 30-minute rain delay, so of course we had to kind of hang out and wait a little bit. And if people aren't familiar with what me and Jacob have done the last couple of years, is we usually pick the big games of the week, the big one, and we go out and get good videos of the kids and the coaches and usually try to get that out to the fan base, right? And then we talk about that game. So it was nice getting to go back to those roots, and it didn't disappoint. Like, I think for a while there, we were both kind of kicking ourselves like, dang, like we should have made it to Jourdanton. Like, Jourdanton was giving Cal Allen a run for their money, which I'd kind of called a little bit. And then, mid third quarter, that game that we were at just kind of turned around, and it was like, okay, wow, like this is happening. And obviously you saw the score. Beeville came out and they made kick-ass second half adjustments, and not taking nothing away from Sinton. They played really hard. It's just seems like they're stuck in a little slump there, having a hard time finishing the second half. And kudos to Beeville. Their coaches adjusted really well. If anyone's familiar with Coach Sosa, that's pretty much the pedigree from him. You're going to get is he's going to grind, and he makes adjustments and he stays in ball games. And Eric did a hell of a job calling plays in the second half, and Coach Brown on the defensive side did a really good job of containing the Galvan brothers. So, it was a great game to go to. And, Jacob wants to talk about his little IR. Actually, he had 2 incidents. He had 2 incidents. The second was a bonus incident, dude.
We thought I was going to have to go on short term for work, man. I don't know how I would have answered that when I got home.
I was worried. I thought his wife was going to cut us off, dude.
So on Renee's touchdown run, it was mid first quarter, and he came on the sideline. I think we were on the 15.
Oh yeah,
maybe,
dude.
and I was filming the whole thing, and he runs right by me, and a Beeville guy dives at him and misses him and dives right into my knee.
Bent it.
Yeah, like bent it, and got the shot though. I didn't lose the shot. Still got the shot, got the touchdown shot and everything. But it was like, wow, must be. I'm only like 4'8" on a good day, so it was that low center of gravity, I guess, that didn't get my knee to buckle. So that was that. And then later in the half, we're on the opposite end of the field, and I don't know what I was doing, but I was standing pretty close to the sideline, and there was a referee out there who could probably run a 3.840. I mean, the guy was just hustling down the line. And yeah, we made contact. Spud walked away.
I walked away, dude. I was like, either A, we're getting sent in a 15-yard penalty, and one of us is getting ejected. The guy was cool. We're pretty familiar with him. He's a young official. They had the A squad out there. You know, if you pretty much come to figure out which officials are the priority crew, and he was cool, man. I don't even think he said anything. He might not even felt you. You know,
he might not.
All I saw was that phone just go tumbling, which he caught. And then I was like, wow, we're gone for sure. I got yelled at by Sosa, so joined that nice little clique of media. People that have gotten yelled at him before for being in the box, which was my mistake. I'm normally pretty good about that. I got lost in the moment. But seriously though, the knee one, that was a freak accident, dude. I was coming down the sideline trying to follow that play because it started off with the 45-yard line.
Yeah.
And he took it to the house, dude. And all I see was that dude coming. And then I'm coming up to Jacob. He's like, dude, I almost lost my knee. And then luckily they had the footage of it. And I was like, oh, boy, that would have been bad. That would have shut us down, dude.
One of the friends of the show.
Joe just joined us.
Hey, Joe, how you doing?
Hey, guys.
He
Hey.
3A sitting fan or 3A download sitting fan in Austin caught it from the stand. So you can see the whole thing, how the guy rolls into my knee. And what's that?
He travels well, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does. He's going at every sitting game. So he'll get video from the stands, and he caught the whole thing on video. We talked about it, and he actually got it in slow-mo and posted it up there. So we were kind of laughing at that at work the last couple of days. But that was our Beeville adventure. But yeah, they looked very good. Both teams looked very good. And that second half Beeville team, the adjustments they made, like Spud said, totally different ball club.
Yeah.
You know, they were breaking in a new quarterback. You know, they had Seth Gomez there the last 3 years, I think. And he had a shortened injury season the year before last. But, you know, he'd been there for a while, and now they're breaking in a new quarterback. And so maybe they were just kind of timid. You know, it was their second game of the season. They came off that big loss to Bernie the week before. And I don't know if they were just gun shy coming out in the first half. Just totally different team. They looked like they were going through the motions in the first half. In the second half, it was a totally different ball club.
That definitely speaks volumes to that Bernie squad that one of our teams down here will eventually see, you know, in playoffs possibly. So keep an eye on that one.
Joe, what's going on?
Hey, not too much. Just joining. I'm enjoying sitting back and listening to the stories. You talk about getting wiped out on the sidelines. That's how I don't know if you remember that one, but I got baptized when I got out of the booth for the first time in a long time at Bogus Stadium. And I was down there just getting some highlights for the TV station, and it was a scrimmage. So I'm behind, walking from one side to the other behind the box. I was in a good spot, and here comes a whole slew of players through the coaches, through the players, and I'm seeing them. I spin, and I start backpedaling, and then there's a tarp that was rolled up. Backed into the tarp, head over heels, landed back on a table right on the back of my neck. I was like, oh, my God, the first time here, I'm going to break my neck. And fortunately, no one had a phone on it, so there was no replays of that one. But that was my baptism in saying, do I really want to get out of the booth and start strolling these sidelines again? And but 6 years later, I'm out of that mess, thank God.
Yeah.
Yeah, luckily for me, I haven't experienced that. That one time, Joe, you did almost get run over when we were at Mission Vets.
Yes, sir.
But Jacob, I remember Jacob Guerrero almost ran into, and you kind of just matrixed him and ducked him out of the way. And I was
by that time I was experienced. Used that ninja-like quickness of mine, with no knees. Yeah, pulled it off.
Now that
got lucky is what I did.
That I do. It's somewhere tucked away. But Joe, on Friday you were up in Kingsville or Kennedy?
Yeah, I was at Kennedy, taking a look at Kennedy for the first time, and Skidmore Tynan. two teams kind of on paper evenly matched and slugged it out. You would look at it a game as a lot of missed opportunities. Either team could have really scored more than they did. A coin toss, if they played 10 times, it'd be winner 50-50. Pretty convinced of that. And again, you look to get better from that one, but the lights went out on us halfway through the game. That was exciting.
Wow.
But
that's Kennedy.
Yeah, they again they're going to get better. They're both of them. I knew coming in they were showing some excitement for the season. I talked about it during a show I was on earlier this week. The biggest thing for these kids when you're seeing them for the first time is the exhale of they finally get to play, and then once they play a game, a lot of times coaches can then hone in on, okay, did you get that out of your system? Because now we need you to understand what we're trying to run, and let's look at some film. Let's break this stuff down. I think that's what you'll see, especially with those two teams as I was watching them on Friday.
Yeah, I think this is Coach Alvarez. I think it's the second year there. He was an assistant at Cuero under Coach Reeve there for a while, and he's a George West boy originally, and I think they started turning around probably a little bit midway last season, winning a couple games. Kennedy had been down in the dumps for a few years, and I think they're starting to turn the corner little by little. He's trying to get some buy-in and changing things over there, and trying to get those kids to kind of see something different.
Yeah, I think they'll get there again. They talking to them before the game. They were pretty excited that this was going to be a really good year for them. And then, again, I don't ever measure a team on the first game that I see them. But I did see enough to say that they're going to get better. They're going to get better as the season goes on. They're going to need to. They got some good teams on their schedule, but they're going to get better as they go along.
And Billy, for you, the Bobcats, they put away George West. I was watching some highlights. Close game early on, but it settled. The Bobcats looked like they settled in and were able to pull away in that one.
Well, I mean, that first half was a lot of, I think it was confusion. I mean, George West quarterback, he's a stud. He was just running all through us that first half. Of course, Refugio is always a second half team, so we always come out stronger. But they fumbled the ball 4 times and gave it to Refugio, which was pretty much their demise because they just couldn't hold on to the ball. I mean, they fumbled it like 5-6 times, but they gave 4 of them to us. And it's you can't do that against Refugio, especially with the backs we have. And once we get on it, we're going to move. Caleb Heseltine really has settled in. I mean, he was 22 of 30 for 336 yards on the night. And that's for him to settle down after that first game, catching every snap off the ground and having to do something with the ball. I mean, he had a couple of problems because the line, he doesn't have a big line blocking for him like we usually have. We got a real small front line. So he got into a couple of situations where he had to run. But he's getting better and better every week. He's just an awesome kid.
Well, one of the things, but he threw for 255 in week 1, didn't he? So he had a
and that's from picking up snaps off the ground. He had enough concentration to pick it up, look for a receiver, and get it to him. He's just really settled in well, better than I thought he would. I thought it would take at least 4 or 5 games to really settle in, but he's done a real good job at it. I mean, they've really conditioned him to a T.
That's a big that George West game's a big confidence booster too, because that wasn't no slouch George West team. I mean, they were ranked.
No, they're ranked number 8.
Number 8. I mean, in 3A.
And they've got some great players, and they made some plays. They found some holes in Refugio's defense, which it's sometimes difficult to do that, especially in the middle. And they ran through the middle and found holes. So they should do pretty good in their district this year.
I see what you're saying though with that small offensive line. I saw the picture I think today that Jacob posted on our page, and your right tackle looks to be about the same size, maybe even skinnier than your quarterback.
Yeah, well, I mean, we made a joke about it the other day off the air. Caleb, even the whole front line can stand up, and Caleb can still see over them. So they're small this year. We don't have very much beef on the front.
One thing I noticed about your game is George West, when they would move the football, looked like they were gaining some confidence. But on the times that they got stopped deep in your side of the field, you guys turned that into a score just about every time. Looked like you just switch on them. They thought they had momentum, and as soon as they gave the ball up on what looked like to be a really good drive, you shut that down with a score, and it didn't take long to score. And that seemed to take the sail out of. They had to regenerate every time on what I watched in that game.
Well, you can watch Refugio, just about every film of Refugio. You'll notice that Refugio likes to play from deep in their own area. I mean, at the first half of the game, you won't see anybody back on punt returns at all. There won't be nobody back there because we want to start deep because we always throw the long ball from there.
Definitely. And looking forward to this week. I know last week TM and Ingleside, I think Spud, you and I talked a little bit that was a little bit of a surprise that we saw TM and come out and get that win against Ingleside. I was a little surprised myself. I know TM had to play Miller week 1, and that was a tough task in itself. But Benavidez played a really good game at quarterback for TM. But then Kyler Marquez he ran wild. He had 213 yards, 3 touchdowns. He really took over that football game for Toloso Midway. And I think that touchdown that Benavidez had to Rosas towards the end of the first half was really that momentum shifter that gave TM that momentum. So just what were you guys' thoughts on seeing TM's offense really kind of find themselves in week 2?
I guess you could say I was surprised, right, with the outcome of that game, but not surprised in the fact that Benavidez and them seem to get it going. They do have a big offensive line, like they mentioned this week, and maybe that's just a testament to how good that Miller defense and D-line is. If they were able to push it against that Ingleside team as much as they did. We saw Ingleside scrimmage, and they weren't no pushover team. They played pretty good with Miller and whatnot. Of course, it was very vanilla playbooks on both sides, kind of. But me personally, I was thinking Ingleside probably control that game. But Christian Benavidez is a big kid. He's a good athlete, and like Joe was saying, week 1, they kind of came out, excelled. They were playing football, and then start dialing in that offense. Well, that offense that I know they want to run over there has to be fine-tuned and it just gets better as the season goes on. So, this could be the start of something good for TM because, they're going to have to play some good ball in that district that they're in because it's not easy, and a good gauge for that will be, the later matchup with Miller to see how TM handles that game. So we'll luckily be able to check that out again. So just definitely keep an eye on TM. They have athletes over there, and I wouldn't write Ingleside off yet. I still think they're going to have a pretty good run.
They got AP this week, right? In the Battle of the Bay.
Yeah, dude. AP comes at Rockport, and then they go right back to Ingleside. They take on both the touching towns back to back. So, and that's a good test for AP. See where they're at because they struggled week 1 against Rockport. They couldn't really get much going. And that's because Rockport put the ball on the ground a lot. So
Yeah,
and that's if Rockport gets their players well because they had to cancel a couple of games because they got COVID.
Yeah, they canceled they rescheduled the one with Miller for the 18th of September. It was one player from my understanding, but yeah, that was unfortunate.
Yeah.
Well, I know the volleyball team, we got to cover them last night at Ingleside. Rockport did. So it looks like their athletics is getting back into motion. But yeah, Ingleside, I like the way they did. They ran the football pretty well. It's just for a team like that runs that nasty slot, they fall behind by 2 scores, and it's really difficult for a team like that to make any kind of comeback. And but TM definitely, they showed off what they could do. And the one thing that Jake and I had talked about was that offensive line, and they really didn't, they relied on Marquez, but if they wanted to throw it, they could, and when they wanted to run it, they could. So it seemed like they had a real.
You were at that game, right, Kevin?
Right.
What would you say the percentage run to throw was?
I'd say about 60-40. They still threw it quite a bit, just enough to keep them honest. But they ran the ball with Marquez. Like I said,
they're evolving a little bit. Then maybe looking at their personnel a little differently because week 1, I would say it was what, Jake, 90 to 10% run, 90 run, 10% throw. I mean,
and they didn't start throwing until they really got behind in the second half.
It was dire need. And hey, did they run the package where they took Benavidez out and they put basically a running back and like two heavy boys back there with him?
Yeah, they ran a wildcat, and that was another thing that was impressive. They ran a wildcat with Marquez.
That wildcat actually worked really well.
He's
like
actually the starting defensive end, and he's the backup quarterback.
Right. Yes. Yes, he is. Yeah. He actually missed a little bit of the first half in that game, so he didn't come in until later in the second half. But they ran that wildcat formation maybe about 4 or 5 times on different drives, and when they did it, it was pretty effective.
It worked pretty good against Miller.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And you see, I was expecting for them to come out running the ball, but right out of the gate, TM, they went deep. They completed, I think, about a 50-yard pass on the second play. So I think that may have just set the tone for the night for TM that we're going to step back and we're going to throw the ball. The interesting thing in that game was that in the last minute, TM had just scored a touchdown. Ingleside fumbled and TM got the ball back, and they elected to take their shot towards the end zone rather than kick the field goal. But either way, that I think would have been the momentum shifter, so to speak, for TM. But they elected to go for 6. They didn't get it. They could have gone for the field goal and gone up by 11, but they chose to kind of go for the end zone there, but they didn't get it. So Ingleside was kind of just hanging in there at halftime. But what else, guys, that stood out to you in this past week?
Cutter Stewart.
Yeah. Orange Grove is for real.
Yeah. You said it earlier before we got on. You had that sit down with Coach Del Percio, and we watched a little bit when we could, but we had the guys on. We had Cutter, Jake Marsh, and Connor Eulenfeld on Monday, and just talking about what they've done and how long they've been playing together, and how the offense works and the philosophy that they're using over there, and there was some talk about Cutter coming into the season, one of the preseason All South Texas players. And I think it was Connor as well that they mentioned. Not a whole lot about Jake and not a lot about the other supporting cast, the Acosta kid at running back and the De Los Santos kid at wideout. And I think Garcia is the other one.
Yeah, Trevor Garcia.
But it's like I said, it's to have a small school running an offense like this with the personnel they have outside of Refugio, Billy. It's a rarity.
Wow.
It's a rarity. Usually you run a spread offense, and you can do that at a bigger school because you've got the personnel depth. At these smaller schools, it's really hard.
Yeah.
Very reminiscent of Odom back in 15, 16, 17 with Michael Everett. With the kids that he had, CJ Romero, Dante Pisania, Dylan Ceballos, Andrew Amaro. They were pretty deep there as well. And, they went 3-4 rounds deep in the playoffs those few years that Everett was there. And Everett turned out to be one of the top 15 passers in the state, career passing leaders. I would expect the same coming out of Orange Grove if he can stay healthy. As a freshman, like we said, I mean, they didn't ease him into it. And Billy, you're seeing it there with Hesseltine. They're not easing him into that offense. They're chucking him.
Oh, huge. Yeah. They threw him right in the water.
As a freshman, Cutter threw for 2,500 yards. So, I mean, and he's already thrown for 700 in week 2. So,
and their schedule pretty much is catered for that team too. They could really do some magic this year.
They have their district's a little interesting, right? And we talked about that. Their biggest test is going to be week 3, and that's, in my opinion, and that's going to be Vanderbilt. Essentially, I think that's the game for the district title. Vanderbilt coming off a very good season from last year. Coach Dixon's been there the last couple of years, and he's turned that program around, and they went pretty deep last year. But yeah, I mean, they're for real. Like Spud said, I mean, we got to watch the game against Odom that Anthony called that was streamed on Real Sports Live. And, he doesn't hold the ball very long. And if he does hold it very long, there's nobody getting to him. That offensive line protects him very well. He's got a lot of time to throw. He can pick the secondary apart. He can wait for a route, or he can just tuck it and run it. So they're going to be pretty fun to watch this season, I think.
Yeah, Cutter Stewart, he's just a sophomore, and Coach Del Percio said that he's been in it for 33 years, and he's one of the best he's seen. And I mean, the kid's just a sophomore. They're averaging just shy of 60 points a game. So I think this team can really put it together. And we had mentioned that, at least in the Coastal Bend, that's pretty much the talk of the week with them in Corpus Christi, London. That game also did get moved to Toloso Midway to allow more fans into the stadium. So what are you guys' thoughts looking forward to London and Orange Grove?
Ty Leonard's a pretty good quarterback in his own right there at London. It seems like Spud, he's always had some athletes on the outside.
Yeah.
Eric Ribble was one that pops up off the top of my head.
Eric Ribble was a game changer.
Yep.
Soccer player, game changer.
And then they had who was the big receiver they had that year too?
I'd be lying to you, man.
I want to say Grant Glasson, but I'm not sure that's it. But they've always had a couple big playmakers out there, a couple big wide receivers, and he can just chuck it up and throw them. I mean, they're usually 2 to 3 inches taller than the defensive backs they're facing. So it's going to be very interesting. But like you said, they moved it to TM, more occupancy. I mean, it is the Caller Times game of the week this week. So it's and that game's going to be streamed by Rio as well, right, Joe?
Yeah, it's going to be streamed. As a matter of fact, as I was assigning who's going where, and that was a personal preference if I could figure out how to get me to that one. But I wanted to see there. I was more curious to see the London team, and the question is there. All right, first of all, again, a show I was on earlier this week, they were asking me, well, what's the Coastal Bend doing to make sure that everything's safe? Because the Valley's taking a quick look at this, saying, let's take a snapshot of what's happening up there and try to incorporate it. And now all of a sudden we're moving to a venue so we can get more fans in there. So A, does that change the home field advantage situation for London? And B, is this the first sign that there's a little bit of a lax saying it's okay to have more fans in place to watch these events? What do you guys think?
We live in Texas.
I think 50% is 50%.
Yeah.
I mean, if this game wasn't get moved, even if it was a Tolosa game or a Cahalan game, I mean, 50% is 50%. I don't think it makes that big of a difference as long as, I mean, yeah, same.
If it's followed like how Buck has been doing it and all the other schools around here, then it's just a smart move. Instead of having 200 people max, now you have 400 people who are all spread out evenly. So
there you go. Yeah.
What's the difference, right? And this is the greatest state for high school football. So, I mean, people on Friday nights want to come out and see it. And, I think that's one of the beauties about Orange Grove is they're one of those towns that I guarantee you, even if those people might have slept on this team a little bit, I think everyone has slept on this team a little bit. I guarantee you that whole town is already behind them because, I mean, Orange Grove they've predominantly put out fans at stadiums, even on down years. And just a little bit of I got to hear of Coach Del Percio. He was pretty impressive to me listening to him talk to Kevin today. So honestly, I'm pretty stoked to see what this Orange Grove team continues to do. I think they'll probably pull the win out here. I think it's a good way to see what London's about. But this Orange Grove team, barring no injuries, right, they're looking pretty strong, especially for their division and just their region in general. So it's definitely one of the front runner teams for us. And I think if people haven't woken up yet and kind of realized, okay, like they're legit, then they will pretty soon.
Yeah, going to be fun, and I'm glad. We've already got Mark did a test today earlier at TM, so we're good to go. And yeah, it'll be another broadcast one, and we'll see if it can challenge the numbers that Billy's pulling over there with the Refugio games.
Yeah,
those are
we're pulling some pretty big numbers.
Yeah,
you guys. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I was speaking of numbers. I was crunching them, and last year was it was the best August we ever had at Real Sports, and then we turned into September, and was the first month that we went over 1 million minutes viewed in a single month. That was last year. This year we're on the 9th, right? Yeah, September 9th. We're already over 1 million minutes viewed on what we're producing right now, and it's eye-popping sometimes to see, and not just the football, the volleyball, the big numbers, but it's definitely hit its stride, guys. And so I got you guys on here. Thanks for being a part of this because it's neat to be on this sleigh ride as we're moving faster and getting bigger quick.
And enjoying every second of it.
it's pretty crazy. I think Jacob can attest to this, but seriously, like everywhere, we go, or, even at work, we have people constantly, friends and family. Hey, what games are being on, what games are on Real Sports Live this week? What games are getting covered? Hey, which one y'all going to cover? People love it because, like you said, not everyone can go out and enjoy the game in person this year. So, and even at that, it's still kind of hard to get tickets, or like, who wants to drive 40 minutes just to be up to the stadium and be like, hey, you can't come in. Like, so, getting to sit at home and watch multiple games, I know personally my brother-in-law is loving it. So, I think that's it's huge. It's a really good platform.
Yeah, and we're I know we get one more week of kind of ease into this thing, but I know that week after next, when all the other schools come into play, and by the way, the Valley's coming back into play too by the end of September. I've got so much equipment; it's going to be eye popping to be. I want to have somebody sitting somewhere and have a big screen TV up with all the games we have up there, because I'm envisioning up to about 25 games at the same time on a Friday night, and to be able to click from one to the other.
You need to convince one of your local sports bars down there to just do that. At one of the, I'm sure you can do that.
Well, I know that we took on Bubba's 33, which is, by the way, I'll give them a promo because it's our first legitimate advertiser that signed on in the Coastal Bend. And they are going to have televisions dedicated to Real Sports Live on Friday night. I know the Miller game's going to be there streaming, and they're going to have they're going to try to incorporate some tailgate with the limited fans they can have around there. But, you go in that place, it's television. And when we're looking at it, we're like, okay, ESPN, Fox Sports, Real Sports, ESPN, Real Sports, Fox Sports, Real Sports. And we were just going around the room with which ones are going to be on there. So, yeah, I need someone to go eat there and take a picture of that, because it's I've only seen it one time where I was in a venue that had that going on. Billy was doing a game out in West Texas for us, and we were sitting there eating in Raymondville, and we looked up and we saw that there was Nebraska taking on, I think it was Michigan State. There was another game, an SEC game, and then there was Real Sports right next to that. And I was like, that's really cool. But to envision what's about to happen with this many games on and a venue being able to put that together, I want to see that. I want to see that at least once.
I'm sure we got some buddies that'll go to Bubba's 33 and take a photo.
Oh yeah,
there we go.
We work with a bunch of degenerates. They'll show up out there. We're talking to you, Pat.
Well, Billy, I know you were saying that when we were up there in Refugio, there was a gentleman that's looking at a way to put a drive-in theater type screen up for people to come into a parking lot. Right, wow.
And he's already moving. He's already moving to do it too. So, and everybody in town will show up there. They don't care here about social distancing.
Yeah, I know, Kevin. You know, we've had some driveway parties before for playoff games down here that we've heard about, but this is the first where I've heard of that. And then I had someone over in the Taft area that was legitimately looking to figure out if they could incorporate the broadcast onto a drive-in screen and invite the entire community to come in and sit in their cars and watch a Friday night game. So
that's cool.
It's pretty cool stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, that was Santa Rosa. They would have those big old block parties.
Yes.
Santa Rosa basketball. You guys are going to be at Sinton at Miller. Spud and Jake, what are your thoughts on that one? Does Sinton have a shot, or what does Sinton need to do to pull up the upset?
Before I dive into that, I'm gonna ask Joe real quick.
Go ahead.
Is the Sinton and Miller game this Friday night going to be on at Bubba's 33? Or do you know that for a fact or no?
I know that for a fact. Yes.
Oh, dude, we'll just promote it on our page and make people send in photos of that.
Okay. All right.
The game. Well, I'm sure someone out there will throw something up for us.
Yep.
Diving into that, I honestly think Sinton's going to play him pretty tough. They have a bunch of playmakers. Rene Galvan's a dang good little quarterback. His brother Ryland's a really good runner. Give credit to Bevo. They bottled him up pretty darn good last week. I think it's going to be, again, tough running for him against that Miller defense and Miller offensive line or defensive line. I just think some of those teams, they don't really back down. So I think they'll play Miller tough. I hate to be kind of semi-biased, but I see Miller coming out with a W in this one.
It's not really.
I am.
It's not really
That's not a
biased.
stretch. That's not a bias. That's
Yeah.
that's a legitimate offense that you how are you going to stop them? And
Well, here's the thing, right? We're talking about being polished after week 1, right? This is where I think we're going to start seeing Miller start kind of you're going to start seeing Miller kind of looking a little more crisp. I think Body's going to look a little sharper on his route or his throws. I think Lloyd has been off the charts already. You know, I think you're going to see some of the younger kids, the freshmen and sophomore receivers. I think you're going to start seeing them come into their own a little bit more. And then obviously, you know, McCullion, he's a lightning bolt. And then you got Greenwood, who he hit the ground running off the bat. He's a sophomore if you're not familiar, and he's a big kid. I mean, I don't think it's a stretch to say that he's about 245, maybe a little more running the ball.
You might be on the lighter end on that.
Yeah, it's like Jaworski Lane kind of all over again, but he's quick. So I think they're gonna wear out Sinton. You know, unfortunately, but it should be a good game. You know, Sinton's not one of these teams that are backing down, and Coach Troutman, he seems like he's instilled a pretty good, just way of pirate football over there. You know,
Hey, Spud,
for anybody.
If you remember last year, you know, at halftime, Miller was only up by a touchdown.
Yeah, no, exactly. And they kind of shock some people when they're running the ball. I just think that D-line's a little more polished this year.
Yeah.
So I think that's where it's going to be tough. You know, if you're sitting, you want to come out of this injury free, right? I mean, that's one of my main concerns in this game for Sinton, coming out injury free.
So yeah,
any thoughts on that game?
Kind of the same sentiments. You know, I mean, it's Miller's got a high potent offense, you know, and with the only thing that I could see being a hiccup is shaking the rust off. I mean, they had an unexpected bye last week.
Yeah.
So they go to week 1 ready to go, and they come out ready to go in week 2, and games pulled out from under them on Friday, the day of. So now they go back and another week with no opponent or nothing live. So you may see some rust. You never know. And if that comes out, Sinton needs to take advantage of that if there's a slow start. But we'll see. I mean, that's why they play the games. I think it's going to be very good. I think we'll see some good individual performances in this game on both sides. You know, we thought Beeville did a very good job of bottling up Ryland last week. And if you saw Ryland the week before, he ran for 320 yards.
He is a tough runner. When he gets an open, man, he picks his knees up.
He still ran for 100 yards against Bevo, and it looked like he didn't even have 50.
Yeah, those are tough yards to come by.
So,
I want to see him go a little more, to be completely honest with you. They got a heck of a receiver in Dalen Davis, and you know, he jumps off the charts. He's what, 6'3", 6'4", Jake? I mean,
6'4", he said. Yeah,
6'4". He's a jumper. He's an athlete. He has great hands. You know, to me, if I were to critique one thing last week, I don't think they got him involved enough. You know what I mean? His matchups against the Beeville secondary, to me, were just, you know, screaming like, "Hey, let's throw this guy a couple passes up in the air and let's see what he can do." You know,
maybe it comes down to special teams as well to help out. You know, Chris Burke had an outstanding game. He had 2 kick returns that almost went for touchdowns against Bevo. I think he was 5 yards short on one and maybe 15 on the other. Had an interception in the backfield to play safety as well. And just like Spud said earlier, we were talking about the Bevo game. Sinton's got a very good defense. Do they have the dogs to keep up with Lloyd and company? I don't know, but it'll be fun to watch.
It's definitely a good game. It could push for game of the week. You know. Just both teams looking at them on paper.
How big is the Cal Allen Waco La Vega game?
That's the game of the state. That's the game.
That should be the game of the week.
Yeah, it's out of the area.
Tried.
Right? So,
I tried, guys.
Yeah, Joe tried very hard.
I did.
But I'm not gonna say anything because it's still up in the air. But yeah, there's a possibility of getting streamed locally. It's just we couldn't get it. So there is a chance that people will be able to see that because that's the game everybody in the state's talking about right now. You know, La Vega, three top 10 opponents in the first 3 weeks of the season.
They came off a close game against Pflugerville Conley last week. Was it 17-14?
It was close.
It was close.
And,
they were down for a while.
They actually may be without their starting quarterback, who had an arm injury in that game. So that makes it a little more interesting. Now they may have to rely on the run game versus going through the air against Cal Allen. And everybody knows, if you saw the Jordanton game last week, if Cal Allen has a weak spot on the defense, it's in the air. So that maybe could match some things up. And from what we heard against the Calhoun game, Calhoun shot themselves in the foot a lot against La Vega. So who knows, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it could be a lot closer than some people think, us included.
Yeah, well,
Me
obviously
included,
it's not the end all game for those two teams, but it's a good measuring stick. But who gains more to win that? Does Cal Allen vault into another level with the victory in that one, or who benefits best with the victory in that neutral site?
I'll let one of you guys have. I have my answer. I'll let you guys go first.
Billy, you've been there before. When you're top dog around and you're playing against another team that is right there in the state rankings at an early game like this, you get a win. How does that affect the rest of your season? Just another game? Is that literally where these teams have reached to that level that we're supposed to take on teams like this? We're supposed to get that win, and or does it actually give you a boost that, okay, we know now where we're at later for this season when we're looking at our goals?
Well, that's the thing. I mean, we faced Mart the past 2 seasons, and they beat us in the state championship before we played them at the beginning of the season. But we needed that test. They beat us one year and we beat them the next. But we needed that test. We usually don't get a test. I mean, but a game like La Vega against Cal Allen, a loss or win boosts you. It's because then what you have to do, to get that playoff system. Kyle Allen went to state last year, so they need that test at the beginning of the season to really test it. Even if they lose, it'll boost them and say, okay, now we know what we need to do.
Bud? And Spud, you're up.
All right, Jake, you're front and center.
Me personally, I really don't think, Cal Allen wins this game. I really don't think it really affects the players any. I think, Danaher and them do a really good job of keeping their kids pretty level-headed and just 1 week at a time, I can tell you this right now, if they win, the expectation level and the people in this area are going to jump off the page, which, mind you, I'm still inside of, let's tamper their expectations a little bit, right? Because heartbreak sucks in December. So I think it's going to be a good game. If Waco La Vega's without their quarterback, I'm giving the matchup to Cal Allen. I mean, point blank, you don't just come into a big game like that week 3 with a backup quarterback unless you're just outstanding everywhere else and beat a team like Cal Allen. They're not a pushover. Jordanton gave him a heck of a game through the air. Cornerstone beat them pretty much through the air with a 4-star quarterback, right? Offensively, people that are close to the program, they pull this card every year. Oh, we're not very good offensively yet. Oh, we're still building. I don't really always buy that because
they sandbag.
They like to sandbag. Even when they're sandbagging, and if it even is true, like when they're having like their quote unquote down years, it's still better than most teams' good years around here. So I expect Cal Allen to go in and win if Waco La Vega is down a quarterback, and I don't expect the expectations of people around here to get, super big headed. But it's going to be interesting to see how they match up. La Vega's La Vega, and if people haven't really been familiar with them, they're no joke. So
No.
It'll be interesting to see what they bring. I wish I could watch it, but just so I can get my kind of take on it. I'm going to tell you right now, I think it's going to be a lot like the Fort Bend Marshall matchup Cal Allen's went through the last 2 years. And, the biggest arch rival to Cal Allen is straight up speed. Speed kills them. As far as they get, speed kills them. The one game I saw them hang in and beat a team was College Station, and that is because they were outgunned on every position, and they didn't have as much speed as that College Station team. But the quarterback, Gage Lamb, was phenomenal. And he had a great offensive line with a really good A.J. Brown as a sophomore. And they barely beat that team. And they should have beat Alito. I won't even go into that. But it takes a strong performance from a really good quarterback for Cal Allen to beat a team with speed. Whether Tarek Blackman's got that, I'm not sure. So we'll see.
I'm kind of with Spud on half of it. I think Cal Allen wins that game. The expectations here around the area are that's it. Danaher's won his. He's on the road to winning his championship.
Yeah.
Because just like you guys know, I mean, La Vega's the bully in 4A, right? them and Carthage. But what I also see is if they don't lose, what I can see is it's typical Cal Allen can't win the big game. So you run into that expectation, right? But this game doesn't count, right? It doesn't count yet. It doesn't count to get into the playoffs. If they lose, my opinion, they lose, they lose. As long as they take something, they learn from it, they can adjust because somebody's gonna see this La Vega team again.
Yep.
Whether it be Calhoun, whether it be Miller, whether it be Cal Allen, those are my bets from this district to go to the region finals to advance to maybe potentially see La Vega if they can get past El Campo up north.
Which Port Lavaca plays this week.
Who they play this week, right? So they're playing. Ruben Owens is coming into town, and they're going to be playing the Ricebirds this week, and they're no slouch either. They've got 3 running backs that went over 1,000 yards each last year.
Yeah, and Ruben Owens is going to Oklahoma as a junior. He committed as a sophomore.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
I just want to point one thing out, right, to kind of touch up on what Jake said, and I want to immediately bail into the Port Lavaca situation because it brought up a very good point to me. But he is right. You know, if Calhoun does lose this game, yeah, you're going to have people, you're going to have the excuse people, we're not ready yet. This is still early in the season. And you're going to have Calhoun can't do it. They're written them off, right? I don't really buy either of those. Point being is it, to me, serves Calhoun better to lose this game. It's hard as hell to beat a team twice in a year. So you lose early on to this Waco La Vega team, they might overlook you if you do get fortunate enough to match up with them deeper in the playoffs. And usually that's when Calhoun is pretty polished. So to me personally, if you lose this game, it's not the end of the world. It honestly, I think, you know, the karma part of it might be better for you anyways. Now going into the Port Lavaca El Campo thing, I wouldn't write off Port Lavaca after that early loss to La Vega. And like you said, like Jacob said, a lot of people said there was a lot of mistakes from the Port Lavaca side, and they honestly didn't lose by much. The big thing I took away from watching some highlights today, which I didn't realize this, is Jarius Stewart, who's been the tailback, I think, the last 2 years for Port Lavaca, is now taking over the quarterback spot. And that was his first game at quarterback. And Jacob made a good point. He said he probably played there in junior high. He is very similar to what was Tobias Weaver from San Antonio Wagner when they made their really good run 2 years ago and lost to a very good, was it Shadow Creek, Jacob?
Shadow Creek.
Very good Shadow Creek team. He gets more polished with Steve Johnson. They are going to be a very hard team to beat, especially if their defense is consistent with how they've been for the past 10 years. So them and the Cal Allen and Port Lavaca matchup, I think that is going to just be a dogfight when it gets there, barring no injuries. And you know, if you get a chance, you can go check out Jerry Stewart's huddle highlights, and you know he's on another level, and we're only in week 3. So,
hey, case in point, right there, you brought up a very valid point about beating the same team twice. You know, Calhoun squeaked away a win in Cal Allen to win the district championship last year, and then just got throttled in the playoffs against Cal Allen.
Yeah.
So maybe you're right. Maybe it's better to lose now.
It's just
You got me shaking my head here. That El Campo team. We had people reaching out to me after week 1 saying, "Hey, is there any chance you can cover El Campo and get them in your mix?" And I was like, "Man, how far north do I want to go?" And Refugio was about it, but
you got Kennedy.
I'm still. Well, I know we got Kennedy now, and it's like, well, El Campo may open up. I may be 1 week too late if that game's that big. I probably could have, would have, should have went after that one, but fans that are out there wondering, I'm taking phone calls, and we're getting some traction here. Never say never. They may be in the mix.
Good.
What game are we going to be at Friday night?
Get a Prosix commercial and sponsorship, you'd be good to go.
There you go.
Yeah.
Right now, I get a sponsorship or commercial about anything that I can put on the air that we can get away with that is within the rules. I'll take it. We really need some help, guys. I'm going to stress that right now as the guy trying to figure this all out. I'll take that opportunity real quick on that one too. Yeah, Kevin, I'm out at Freer Freer gets their first broadcast of a football broadcast on Rio Sports, and so I'm going out there. Taft heads that direction. I asked the question. Taft put up a bunch of points in the last 2 weeks, and so as I'm getting ready with my prep work, how good is Taft? Against the question mark, what is the Buckaroos going to be able to bring to that game, and how big or how good can that one be? Because that's where I'll be stationed.
Definitely, and then I'll be at Fremont at Three Rivers, so that one should be pretty interesting. I know the Fremont people were just chomping at the bit to get their games on, so I'm pretty sure that they're excited. And I think we talked about them last week, did we not, Spud?
Yeah,
Jake?
We did.
How
Yeah,
they
Billy,
just
Billy
came
asked
back to
about him.
football?
Yeah.
Yeah, Billy asked about it.
Right. Yeah. So we'll see Fremont. I'll see Fremont Friday night. So any other final thoughts, guys? Maybe on some games that maybe stick out to you that maybe we didn't talk about, or anything else?
Well, a future game we have upcoming, I think it's going to be pretty big for the area. Jacob brought to my attention today is Alice and Wimberley. So, that's going to be Alice's first game back, and Wimberley's probably going to have a couple games underneath their belt. So, if you're familiar with Wimberley, they went to state last year, and it's going to be a good test for Alice to see where they're at, because Wimberley never really has a down year. They're pretty good little football program. So that's going to be one for the future. We're going to probably end up talking about. So look for that one.
Yep. The return of Rockport next week, hopefully against Miller. They're at home. So hopefully that'll they recover and they can get out of their 2-week quarantine and they can get that game going. Odom West Oso is going to be another one. A couple 0-2 teams that are looking for their first win.
Read it.
Joe, who's going to be at that one?
Marco Manguia. Coach Manguia is going to slide over with Jacob Young. They're going to handle the call over there.
Yeah, so that game will be streamed from West Oso. Both teams kind of struggling right now. Odom's hurt. They've been hurt since week 1. They lost the starting running back for the year against Ingleside. Their other starting running back had a high ankle sprain out a couple of weeks. Also, that kid's going both ways, so he's a starting defensive player as well. They're just trying to figure out what to do at this point. West Oso, I haven't had to get a chance to get eyes on West Oso. But just like we talked about with you a couple of weeks ago, Kevin, I mean, they're breaking in a new coach as well who got hired during the pandemic and trying to figure things out.
And then also, the NFL starts tomorrow. Did you guys join that fantasy football league that we started?
Oh, I didn't see that.
I don't play fantasy
football.
football.
You better join. Rudy was going crazy. He's like, they haven't joined. I think he wants to run a draft tonight, so we got to get that thing rolling.
Someone send me info and I'll get in it.
I'll send it to you, Spud. Yeah, you got to put him on the group. You got to put him on the group chat, Joe.
Okay. Oh, he's not on there. Okay. Yeah, I'm in the process of restructuring that group chat because we've added about 7 names, so it's going to be one of those. You guys will see it in a big mix. And
I went from not.
I like what Billy said when I made that thing, though, because Billy on his first week, he was like, I'm sitting there getting ready to do my game, and I'm thinking, man, I'm out here on an island alone. And then all of a sudden, here comes this text message with all these people responding. It's like I kind of relaxed and was like, okay, I'm not by myself here. There's a lot of people, but there's more coming, guys. A lot of I'm meeting one tomorrow. I'm real excited to meet with that is a former radio broadcaster that is going to meet with me in Robstown and add another voice. And I'll put this out there too. I know people watch this stuff. So announcers, camera operators, looking for those as well, because of the fact that, we're so close to swinging that door open, the bigger schools in the mix, and then the Rio Grande Valley just barreling downhill. First games there that I know of, and Kevin, correct me if you got an earlier one, is that September 25th matchup. And so announcers, camera operators, and then, I'll say it the last time, and I promise. Sponsors. We need a bunch of them.
We're going to try to get you some.
Me and Jacob need a cameraman.
There you go. Okay.
And of course, we get to talk about my game coming up because it's only going to be about 12 minutes long. That's Edna usually plays us for 12 minutes, and then it turns into a track meet. This year, I mean, they've had it a little rough. They've lost a lot, and Bay City kind of treated, but they scored 11 points against Bay City, which surprised me. But then playing East Bernard and then playing us, they have a horrible schedule this year.
That's tough out of the gate. Yeah.
But they usually play us really hard, like the very first quarter of the game, and then they just kind of sit back after that. I can show you the statistics from the past 6 years, and it's all the same.
Definitely. All right. Well, that just about wraps everything up, guys. Billy, Jake, Spud, Joe, myself. We'll see you guys all at the games Friday night. Just real quick, so the fans can let them know where you're gonna be at. Billy, where will you be?
In Edna.
Refugio
versus Edna.
Refugio at Edna. Spud and Jake.
Be at the Buck.
Beat the Buck.
Be there bright and early. We hope to see you Miller guys out there in line again at 4:00. We did last time.
And we want people sending pictures in of the game on Bubba's 33 TVs for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
I have a friend told me today that he plugged into his HDMI onto his, and he said the broadcast looked crystal clear on a television through HDMI. So
Good.
That's a testament to our equipment that we're using.
3 years in the making, my friend, to pull that off the way we're pulling it off. Some people think, it's real easy to do. And yeah, that's neat to hear that kind of stuff.
Hey, I tell you what, you guys that are watching, I know Kevin's dying to get us off because he's checking time and looking at his watch all the time. But
He's worried about fantasy football now. Look at him, dude.
He wants to get to that
Yeah, he's
draft.
probably wanting to study for this draft. That's what he's wanting to do.
one of the things
This is at 8:10. Astros Athletics.
one of the things
Okay.
one of the things that Justin and I noticed is at watching other streams, because we're watching other streams to keep up. A lot of them are missing instant replay.
Yeah.
They're
lacking a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Honestly, that's not being biased to Real Sports Live, because we got a chance to get a little bit of Real Sports Live last year when we were at work, and we were like, man, this is pretty good. Dude. It's pretty good.
People watch
And, now seeing a little bit of it behind the scenes, the instant replay and the commercials, that's next level. I think a lot of people are like, oh, hey, it's a pandemic, we're gonna grab a camera and microphone and stream off this internet, and they go out there and it's good production. I'm not dogging them, but it's just, the Real Sports Live, the way y'all got it set up, obviously took you a while to do it, and it's pretty smooth. So it's good to be a part of it.
Well, yeah, I mean, last night was our first volleyball game that we broadcast on Real Sports Live for Refugio, and we had 2,400 views. So
it's huge volleyball.
So people are coming out of it.
That's playoff volleyball in the past couple of years.
Yeah.
And that's just a regular season game. Now, one thing I am also, incorporating is with me being out in front of this, we're getting real close to being incorporating some online real-time stats. And so we'll start assigning a statistician to be there with you guys. And that's coming. That's our next level. I've always said this. We're doing this with one hand tied behind my back from a television perspective. But if they like what they see, keep watching, because bigger and better is coming.
Joe, you give me a cameraman, then we'll have the statistician up there.
All right. I'm going to have stats for the first time this week at my game. Like I said, I'm actually in a comfort zone where I'm going to have things set up, and I'll have statistics and some spicy things on my broadcast for the Freer Taft game.
Your next level.
I'm trying.
Definitely. All right. Well, I was going to just say one last thing, that if talking about the quality, Billy, I think my best experience is watching it on YouTube. As far as getting that crystal clear HD look on the big screen, a lot of people have told me that through YouTube is the best way to get the best quality, at least.
Yeah.
I'm to watch the football games.
Yep.
Definitely. All from starting from a webcam, Joe, and a little clumsy headset.
Oh my goodness. You were there. You remember it, Kevin. I tell the story, but to see it, you'd have to see it to believe it, to understand it. But
I dug into my dresser to find that headset, just a little guy's tiny little flimsy headset that plugged into the USB deal.
What game?
That's all I got.
What's that?
What game did you? What was your first game covering with it?
It was St. Joe, St. Joseph out of Brownsville, and they were playing. I believe it was Porter that year, and it was Rio Hondo first game. Yeah, that's true. It was Rio Hondo because we split it. We followed Rio Hondo the next week to another game, but we literally we're waiting for some camera equipment at that time, and I was like, we're gonna have to do something. So I ran to Walmart and bought a $9 webcam. Figured out how to place it on I figured out how to place it on a tripod, and we spun that sucker around and brought it into the computer. that was the broadcast. It was on that webcam, and I was like, it'll be 3 years, October 11th. October 19th. I'm sorry. My wife just corrected me because she was there running that little webcam. October 19th will be 3 years. So we've come a long way. And now I got a good vision. I got some good people like you around me. And we're going to get to another level. Just wait and see.
Awesome.
Definitely. Well, be sure to check us out on Real Sports Live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram. Give us a follow and a like there. Be sure to tune into all the games and subscribe to our YouTube channel as well. As we'll all be on the road in these next couple of days. So, guys, be safe, and we'll see you all at the games on Friday night.
You bet.
Sounds good.
All right, man.